Yes, 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 yes. Welcome one, welcome all. Yes, 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 yes. Welcome one, welcome all. We are live, broadcasting from the 5th, 6th, and 7th dimension. Feels good to be here with you all again after a short break. I allow myself to be my best self. You're listening to I Allow. To be creative. And to let go. Yes, yes, it's time to allow yourself to awaken to a new reality, to learn something new. Just sit back and allow. We'll be with you in just a few seconds with our guest. You're listening to the music from the Doctah B new project called Allow, which will be out just in about 6 weeks. And that's the voice of Azare in the background on the track, I Allow. I allow myself to live an elevated life, to stay focused and clear, always moving towards a goal. I allow myself to let go and to learn, to live, and to grow. I allow myself time and space. I allow. Yes, 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 yes. It's time to allow. It's time to allow ourselves to take advantage of all the things that are happening. Because everything is connected to its opposite. When you have that in your mind, it gives you a whole nother perspective. So when some things are going down, others are going up. When some things are going back, some are going forward. It all is happening. There's technically is not really any good or bad or good or evil. Those are perspectives, rich or poor. No matter how much money you have, somebody has more. No matter how little you have, somebody has less. So you could never be 100%. You could never be perfect, but you can take advantage of little things. When we learn how to maximize the minimum, that's when we win. You and all of us have things available to us that we may not have even seen and looked at. Somebody told me one day, that they're an artist. I'm an artist. I'm an artist. And I had just been listening to this YouTube by the guy Bassar. And he was talking about how back in the day, way, way back, all they had was burnt sticks with charcoal. And they painted some of the most beautiful charcoal paintings that have lasted forever on the walls of caves and on the walls of buildings. And they used what they had. But sometimes, what happens, we get into the, we get into the, let's call it the virus of complaining and the virus of being a victim and the mindset of we don't have and the lack, limitation, when sometimes that is not actually factual, because you might have $75 in your pocket and feel you're broke. But in certain places on this planet, that $75 could help those people for a year. It's about your mindset. And our mindset around money has been shaped today mostly by social media, what we need to look like. I heard that the president of China said, well, okay, you got these tariffs. We're going to give all those important fancy bags and all these expensive items, a handbag for $20,000. We're going to give it away for $10,000 because we make it. And it's the same. It all just got a different logo. And the logo is what gives it the value. Sometimes it's the logo, the language. Logos means language. It's the symbol. Money is a symbol. Wealth is a symbol. Having a house or a home is a symbol. Sometimes we say somebody's homeless, and what does that mean? There's a difference between homeless and houseless. Some folks don't want a home. They got a place. They're at home within themselves. That's a beautiful place. But what I have found out, that we've got to tap into our God power. There's a divine force within us all. We all have it. We just might not know where it's at and what to look for, or sometimes we don't even know when we're actually in it and standing in it and using it. And that God power doesn't mean good, because it can go either way. You can be destructive, very powerful and godlike, right? Or be very creative. It's about being creative and dealing with people who know how to be creative and people who have experience in different places, in different worlds. So when we were actually doing, I don't know how many of you have seen the God Power presentation, the first one, which, historically, it's been known as the largest online event of its kind ever done. God Power 1 with Billy Carson. So in that presentation, which you can still get, by the way, at elevationtime.com, Billy Carson was mentioning, different things that we can use to build wealth, because his book was out, Woke Don't Mean Broke. And during the talk, he mentioned a few people and the places that we can go and folks we can hook up with that will pick up your call and help walk you through the fruit field, because there's fruit hanging from the trees sometimes, but you don't know how to reach it because you don't know which fruit is which, or you don't know when the fruit is ripe or not. And the two people that he introduced on this webcast we have with us tonight, these folks know how to help you get the fruit, you see, because there is fruit. Even when they say, oh, it's a dry season, things are getting bad. Have you heard the news? There's not any fruit. I walk outside and see fruit all day. You ever hear the news and they tell you about it's a terrible storm coming, and where you're at, the sun is out. So what do you get all sad and turned out and messed up because they told you there's no fruit? The housing market is worse than it's ever been. There's people buying more properties now than ever. People are selling more properties now. You just don't see it because they told you, right, and programmed your mind not to see it. Oh, the banks aren't giving out any loans. Well, you may not have to go to a bank to get a loan. You might already have the wealth within you and the wherewithal to create that for yourself, by yourself, with yourself, or create a group of people, working together in a group. Now, that takes trust. The mind, a lot of times, is programmed by the society. And if you've been raised in a society that speaks the language of lack, limitation, if you have been born into a family that feels like they're victims and they vote victocrat every time there's time to elect somebody. They push the button that says victim, victim, victim. Then you may not see what's right in front of you. You may not be able to take advantage of what's in front of you. But when we did the God Power event, when the brother was talking, I was taking notes. And he mentioned this lady who could help you get a mortgage and actually help somebody else we all know who may not have all the wherewithal through the conventional channels to get a home or a house, and got it. She's on the program, the sister that can help walk us through some of those fields and realize the wealth that we may already have within us. And Billy also mentioned another person who could help you with your credit. And what's really interesting was the person that Billy was mentioning, right? Somehow he got the website off by one letter. So I wrote down what he wrote on his board, right? But what he wrote and what he gave to the people was not what he was meaning to give. He gave this other guy's information. So I called that guy. And the guy's like, hey, what's going on? Everybody's calling me. It's something about, Billy Carson and God Power, blah, blah, blah. I says, man, I don't know, but man, can you help me? He says, yes. What do you need? And he began to change my whole paradigm around finances, around money, around business. And these two people have been very instrumental in helping us here at Elevation, tap into some things that we didn't know how. You got to be able to say, look, I don't know how. Because if your mindset around money is that money is the root of all evil, guess what? That's your programming. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to fight with money. You're going to have a war with money and financing. If your mind says they don't give us loans, we can't get financing, they're not going to let me move into that neighborhood. My credit is all messed up, just like the rest of my family. My whole family's credit is messed up. My great-great-grandfather had a credit rating of 3.1. So you feel like, that's your genes. It's in your genes. It's written into the genes, the poor people. When in fact, none of this is in your genes. It's all changeable by having the right knowledge. We've got to change our subconscious around what we know, what we believe, and what's possible. Once you change your subconscious, which is like an automatic robot that's electing and selecting and moving and creating for you, once you break that spell, everything breaks. We've got to break the spell of being poor, broke, lonely, last, and lackluster. We got to break that. And it's being broken right now. So tonight, we're going to talk about that. The mindset around what you think about your self-worth, your value, what is possible, and tap you into something and some things that might be right next to you. Because usually what you think you're missing is very close to you. So what I'm going to do now is going to bring in our guest, and I like everybody to give them a round of applause. So right now we're going to bring in Jackie Braden. Hey, Jackie.
Hello. Hi, everyone. How you guys doing today?
Jason Carrera Vowel.
Hey,
Is it
how you
vowel
guys
or
doing?
vowel? How you say it? Vowel
A
or vowel?
vowel. Not consonant, but vowel.
Vowel, the sound.
Or can I buy an A, E, I, O, or U?
That's powerful now. You about to tap you. We that's a whole concept, AEIOU. So we're not going to talk about that right now, but thank you.
Yeah.
But welcome. I'm glad you both are here. And this has been a long time coming. We've been talking about this ever since God Power. You see,
Yeah.
so this is the power sometimes to be able to wait to the right time. And this is the right time. When folks feel the sky is falling, they're running for the hills. Well, where they were, we need to go and talk about how to obtain what they've left and what we're leaving. And I'd like to say to both of you, first, we're going to start by both of you introducing yourself, a little bit about where you come from, your background, and then we're going to, start letting you both dig into letting us see what is possible. Let's go with ladies first. Jackie.
Thank you. Such a gentleman. Well, hi everyone. I'm Jackie Braden. I'm owner of Voltage Mortgages and Voltage Financial Services. I love what I do. I have to always start off by saying that because I'm helping people. I'm helping people change the way they view money and they view assets and wealth, financial wealth, and how you can help your family break what in this country I feel is debt and not passing on wealth from generation to generation. My background is I come from been an investor first, say 15, 20 years ago. And around 10 years ago is when I got into hard money lending. And I started with doing loans for businesses, then ventured over into mortgages and now into cash value insurance, as well as term insurance and annuities, all in the financial industry. It's very important, I believe, to understand money.
Are we frozen?
Properties, but I didn't understand the power of having the properties or the power of what that meant and what it could have done and what it does for people. So I just love coming into the financial industry. I think it's just a blessing. And once we change the way we see money and use it for the tool that it is, it just sets your family up for success, I feel. So I love what I do. And um, yeah, I think that's all you said. Just introduce yourself and what your background is for the most part.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Jason.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jason Carrera Vowell, and I just wanted to touch on what Jackie had said. She had talked about uh, credit, and credit is actually a powerful tool. A lot of people think credit is just debt, and that's where I'm trying to help everybody understand that it could be more of just it's more of a tool instead of just debt. Because a lot of people will be like, oh man, I don't want a credit card because I can't go into debt. But sometimes you have to take that step forward and uh, get credit so that banks can trust you, so that they can loan you more money to buy a house and great things like that. Um, Dr. B mentioned about symbols, and there's symbols I'll be talking about today. But I got into the credit sphere, crazy enough, back in the early or late 1980s, trading baseball cards, believe it or not. I was so into baseball cards that I saw my dad start paying for things with a card, with a credit card. And at a very early age, like the age of 15, 16, I actually started to collect credit cards. From credit cards, it went to building my first home when I was 18 and getting rentals and understanding how you don't necessarily, you can barter. This is from baseball cards. For instance, the first home I built, the piece of property, I went to the property owner and I asked the property owner if he would allow me to take out a loan with just him with the property, and then I could go to Jackie or a mortgage lender and use that land as the equity to build my first house to get my construction loan. And so that land created the equity. So there's all these different ways to pull off things that you want to do in life. It's just a matter of being creative and wanting to listen to people. And I love what I do. I am. I felt like after I had sued Equifax in a court of law, being the only person ever to sue and win them, to have them remove the unverified accounts off my credit report, I felt like I had a calling. And that's my calling, is to educate people and to put them in a better position in life. So that's my introduction.
Wow. Sued Equifax.
Right.
And one. Representing myself.
That's beautiful, beautiful.
Nobody's ever done that.
Well, I like having folks who are pioneers, and we have pioneers here today. So those of you who are ready, get your pens and pencils and paper and tablets out. I'd like to ask a couple questions before we go of our audience. Is it okay that we give you information tonight that might be helpful in advancing your life mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, and your love life too? Because sometimes that money, for some folks that does it, or that property or that credit or that credential. Is it okay that we share this information? And is it okay if we make it a little fun? Because I like to make things fun. Laughter is the medicine of the universe. And would it be okay if we talk about some things that may be a little abrasive or a little agitating because you didn't know? See, a lot of times folks get mad. Well, how come nobody ever told me? They never told me. Listen, it's not about what they didn't tell you. It's about what you're receiving now. Live in the moment. And please use this information. Okay? Is that okay? Good. We got okay. So let me change this because I got banners running and I feel like I'm running a TV station this time. That's cool.
You're a producer.
Yeah, I'm a producer and a director. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start off and let each of you talk about what you do. And we're going to start with you, Jason, because it's because of Jason that we're actually doing this, because he kept pushing me. When are we going to do it, Doctah B? When are we going to do it? When are we going to do it? We're going to do it. We're going to do it now. I says, okay. Because
Ever since Blueprint for God Power 1,
yes.
I mean, talk about a miracle.
Yes.
And Blueprint for God Power 2, I can't wait for Blueprint for God Power 3.
What's amazing is that my credit was all over the place. And I called Jason. And keep in mind, it wasn't the person that was being mentioned. It was the wrong number, but it was the right number. And Jason and I became close, and he went in and did some surgical work on my credit that was amazing. I mean, it was like hours. He said, no, what I've done is going to take probably like 2 weeks to 45 days. It was 3 days. Wait, was it like a week? Within a week, everything changed. And I was just amazed that whatever he did, it was some magic. But I'd like to start with you, Jason, to talk about what it is you do, how you do it, and let's present.
Yeah.
And we're gonna drop off and let you be on the screen, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Take it away.
If you could just add me to there we go. So, like I said, my name is Jason Carrera, and I'm going to talk about my credit journey. And how my journey through identity theft and credit damage sparked helping others. So my personal story had to do with my credit, obviously, and my health. Your credit score can impact your health both mentally and physically. Stress and anxiety. Living with a low credit score often means worrying about getting denied for loans or housing, paying higher interest rates, dealing with debt collectors. And these constant financial pressures can lead to chronic stress, which is linked to anxiety, depression, and sleep disorders. You can see me on the hospital bed. I had a heart attack because of all the stress I was going through with my credit. Having poor credit can limit your access to affordable insurance, medical, financial options, and the quality housing of an unhealthy environment. From the physical side, it can lead to chronic stress from financial hardship. It can increase your blood pressure, weaken your immune system, heart disease, digestive issues, and a financial stress can lead to an unhealthy coping behaviors like a poor diet, substance abuse like smoking, and avoiding medical appointments due to fear of costs. Our credit score just doesn't affect our wallet. It affects our well-being. Fixing your credit could be a major step towards a healthier, more peaceful life. And you can see just today, here on May 8th, we had a gentleman that bore the fruits of our labor, and he was able to go from into the mid 500s to the on an average to the mid to high 800s. So my whole life, I'd been proud of keeping my credit score in the 700s. I bought my first car when I was 15 years old. I even made 6 payments. I made 6 payments before I turned 16 because I had a job. I started a job when I was 12 years old, and I saved up my money, and I got a loan for a truck when I was 15 years old. So if you guys follow Billy Carson, which I'm sure most of you do, you might have seen the podcast we just recently did together. And I talked a little bit about how I got into credit and what it even means. But what I didn't share was the toll it took on me personally. So my breaking point and taking control. There was a point where things spiraled out of control. The stress became so overwhelming. I was constantly anxious, losing sleep, having physical symptoms from the pressure. And that's when I decided to get help and hired a company called Lexington Law. Now, for those of you that I'm pretty sure that are watching this, you've used a big majority of you have used Lexington Law. They helped out 4.3 million Americans. And I don't know if you guys knew this, but they also own creditrepair.com. So I'm not here to bash companies, but I'm here to tell my truth and the truth. And so what happened is I spent over $1,000 with them. But what hurt more than the money was the waste of 9 months. No progress other than one inquiry was removed over a 9-month period. Cost me over $1,000. Just frustration and deeper feeling of helplessness. Now, what's really interesting, again, this is Lexington Law, Credit Repair. Lexington Law, creditrepair.com is a subsidiary of Lexington Law. Now, some of you guys may have even gotten a refund check, because what happened is in late 24, you can see right here that the CFPB announced returning of $1.8 billion in illegal junk fees to 4.3 million Americans harmed in the massive credit repair scheme. Payments to the victims of Lexington Law and credit repair are the largest ever distribution from the CFPB's Victim Relief Fund. Can you believe that? December 5th, 2024. And what I found that was ironic about this was right when Doge was getting ready to put the hammer down on a lot of these bureaucracies. And I believe the CFPB went out of their way, thank goodness, to get as much cash as they possibly could. I know that's a lot of money to get $1.8 billion from Lexington Law, but that's how big they were. Now, I personally didn't get refunded, and I'm pretty sad about that, but a lot of our clients had gotten anywhere between $700 and $900. But for those of you that have been that have used Lexington Law in the past or Credit.com, I would highly advise giving us a shot, because we provide transparency, something that they just didn't do, and that's through my own experience, so I can say that. So, and I didn't do my basic due diligence. I didn't even Google them. That's one of the biggest mistakes that cost me everything. Now, did you know that there are 4,500 so-called credit repair companies in the United States? And I'll bet if you Googled all of them right now, only 225 of those 4,500 so-called credit repair companies have a Google My Business page. When you go onto Google and simply just Google the company that you're working with, you'll see that it's something totally different. It's not their website. It's what separates a company from being legitimate. Because a lot of these companies, they don't want to have bad reviews. They don't want the public to see the bad reviews. And so I highly recommend just going to Google and Googling the company that you're looking to business with. Having a verified Google business profile is one of the easiest ways to separate the real from the fake. Legitimate companies, like I said before, aren't afraid of the public seeing real reviews, both good and bad, because transparency builds trust. So, me being exhausted mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I felt helpless, anxious, borderline depressed. So I made a decision. No more waiting on someone else to fix my credit. I was going to figure this out myself. I basically became the mad scientist, and I dove deep into the three bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. I tested several dispute methods, researched federal law, and sent in every piece of supporting documentation I could find to the three bureaus to dispute my own unverified accounts on my credit report. Again, eventually I build and dispute my own letter with all the legal statutes that required the credit bureaus to comply with federal regulations within 60 to 90 days. Experian and TransUnion, they deleted the accounts, but Equifax refused to. So the legal fight against Equifax began. I filed a lawsuit. Judge Anderson scheduled a bench trial, me representing myself versus Equifax against their legal team that flew over 2,500 miles to get to St. George, Utah. And guess what? They lost. And you can see here the Equifax judgment to delete all unverified accounts. Plus, they awarded me, I know that this is kind of blurry and small, but they also awarded me almost $5,000 as well. I actually sued Equifax. I took them to court, I represented myself, and to this day, I can't find anywhere on the internet, so I'm going to say this until otherwise. I'm the only person that has sued Equifax representing themselves and won. So I beat Equifax, and I was able to win on identity theft. So that's something that we put out on social media. And again, I'm the only person that I know of that didn't hire an attorney. I represented myself against their corporate attorneys and won against Equifax. And that's the process that the same process that we use to dispute people who want to use our services to dispute unverified collections, charge-offs, inquiries, things of that nature. So that moment was the beginning of Credco Management, LLC. I turned my pain into purpose, and now we're helping thousands do the same. You can see here some before and after pictures of other people. Here's me. We were able to win Southern Utah's credit counseling of the year for 2024. There's a picture there of Billy and Elizabeth.
Working with Jason and his team has forever changed our family's lives. Hi, we're the Tituses, and when we were looking to purchase our first home, we were fortunate enough to be introduced to Jason and Credco Management. It really helped us fast track our credit to get to where it needed to be to buy our first home. Originally was looking to purchase a house, and with our credit, they were mentioning that it was going to take probably close to a year. But with Jason and his team at Credco Management, they fast tracked that to close to 90 days, and we were ready to roll on purchasing a home.
From the very beginning, Jason made us feel very comfortable. He walked us through every aspect of it to make sure that we knew what was going on. We got constant updates, and he just made it really, really easy for us. And we really thoroughly enjoyed getting to know him, getting to know Credco, and working with him.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to pivot into the Titus family and why MyScoreIQHealth.com is so important. Now, Brian, he had been using Credit Karma, and Credit Karma there's symbols that Dr. B was talking about, and there's two very important symbols that I need everybody to focus on. There's your FICO score, and then there's your Vantage score. The FICO score is the scores that banks use compared to the Vantage scores that banks just don't use yet. Now, they might in the future, but they have not started yet to my knowledge. And as you can see here, his score, he came to us thinking that it was an 809 for his Equifax, and his TransUnion was a 788. And it's tough because we had to pull up his MyScoreIQHealth.com, which is the FICO-based platform. And the great thing about the MyScoreIQHealth.com platform is for $1, you'll not only see your FICO 8 score, which is right here, this 618, but the biggest thing is when he was trying to get a home, as Jackie can attest, what lenders for homes, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they use specifically the FICO 2 score. It does not matter what your FICO 8 score is, your FICO 3, your FICO 10, they care about, for Experian, your FICO 2. So for $1, you're not only able to see your FICO 8 scores, you're able to see all of your other industry scores, which is critical, your auto scores, your credit card scores. And it's extremely important to call your bank and ask your bank. Don't be afraid to ask them. Some people think it's taboo to ask, but don't at all, because it's something, it's your right to know, to call your bank and say, hey, what credit reporting agency do you use? And some of them will tell you they only use TransUnion. Like, for instance, Navy Federal Credit Union. They only use TransUnion's FICO 8, where Pentagon Federal Credit Union only uses Equifax. They don't even use Experian. And so that's really important. Very, very important to know what your scores are going into it. And even though we were able to help him out, and even though his FICO score only says 618, we were able to increase his mortgage score to a 757. And so a lot of people don't understand. You want to know going into the loan that you're trying to get what scores you need. And that's what myscoreiqhealth.com does. So right here, I just did another little slideshow, and you guys should be able to click on that. It should be interactive, myscoreiqhealth.com, to find out what all of your 3 FICO 8 scores are, along with your industry lender scores. I mean, normally it's about $40 to find this stuff out, but for $1 you can find that out by simply, again, going here to MyScoreIQ Health, signing up, and then right through here, this is where I'm telling you that you'll be able to know these specific scores. And for the Titus family, like I said, all they cared about, they didn't know what score to use, but I had to educate them, and our Credco specialist educated them on what scores to be looking at, which was the FICO 2 score for Experian. And that's kind of that was the beginning of Credco Management, was me having to do this the hard way, the pain and suffering I had to go through, and dealing with a company that did nothing, where Credco Management, we've helped out hundreds of people, if not thousands, just in the past year and a half since Blueprint for God Power came out, with just Billy and Doctah B's followers. Now, the best thing that a person could do is to go onto our website, credcomanagement.com, and simply fill out this easy form, your first name, last name, email address, telephone number. Explain if you've been a victim of identity theft, what's your current score, and be sure to click on I agree to receive text, because you'll be able to get a text right away from us, with one of our Credco specialists that I've trained for several years. Everybody here has been trained by me, and you don't just have to ask for me. Every Credco specialist has been through my training course, which is second to none. I teach all sorts of, I teach at the high school. I'm going to be teaching this year what's called Credit 101 to Utah Tech in Southern Utah. But everybody, if you could go and sign up here to credcomanagement.com. But before that, it's also nice to be able to see what your credit score is, so that you can just give us your username and password, and we can go over your credit score with you to come up with a game plan, and you'll be able to see we'll be able to see if we can help you guys out. So, Doctah B, that's about it for me.
All right, let's see how we can change this. Let's remove that. Can you just touch on, because some folks don't, they say, well, I don't really need credit. Some folks don't. Can you just touch really quickly on the things that having a certain score, what is a decent score, and what kind of things can we use this? What kind of things can we gain by having this decent credit score?
Well, if you think about it, our credit score it's everything. whether you're trying to rent an apartment complexes and management companies, they've gotten extremely strict on wanting to know what your credit is just to be able to rent. Employers are starting to pull your credit to see what your credit score is. Your insurance for your car insurance. I mean, these are things that people traditionally don't think about, but generally speaking, if you can get over a 660 to a 670, that's classified as a good score. Now, the higher you get, the better. But even if you have a 750 score, there's things that we can do. We've actually been able to achieve. We've posted this before. We were able to get a guy a perfect credit score of 850. So don't think that your credit is too low because it might be in the low 400s. If you noticed down here I could show you where my credit was at one point in the low 400s, right here. That's me, 425 in 2018. I'm sorry, in June. And so from June, I went from a 425 to a 722. So what I want people to know is you're not a lost cause if it's so low. It's worth every penny the services that we do, because if you were to hire an attorney, it would cost you 10 times the amount that we charge. And I come from a paralegal background, and I'm also the only one, like I said, that has sued and won Equifax. So to get back to your question, Dr. B, you want to be able to be at least about a 660, because that's going to be able to get you in the door to be able to finance most things in general and be able to get you into an apartment. Now, they'll make some exceptions, but the lower your score is, they might require a bigger deposit. And so to save yourself a lot of heartache and money, going on to My Score IQ Health will tell you each of these specific scores, and then by calling the banks, you'll know which one you really need to work at. Because like I just showed you with Brian Titus's score, his FICO weight was a 618. He thought he didn't think he had a chance. And I said, Brian, no, right here, your FICO 2. This is, and Jackie can attest to this. They look at your FICO 2, because he had a problem with, in the beginning of, your FICO 2 is based on installment loans, like a car, a home, things that are a consistent payment every month. And so we were able to help him out with those types of things that he needed to work on to get disputed and removed, which had a dramatic effect on his mortgage score. Now, it didn't affect his FICO A score, which is a 618, but for what he was trying to achieve in his home, as you can see with the testimonial of him and his wife, Amy, they were thrilled.
Well, with me, you did something that was amazing. You said you needed to see if I had data breaches,
yes,
in my credit. And could you talk a little bit, because that was when the magic happened, when you found those data breaches that I didn't even know anything about.
Sure. So I should have probably added this to the slideshow. Now, Credco Management, and I'm the founder, we're the only company in the United States that has a patented trademark called the DB-RAMS, Data Breach Recovery Asset Management System. And what that does is, it's been vetted through the government. And what we're able to do, what my system can do, is it can search to make sure that we have the hard evidence that you've been a victim of a data breach, and having that hard evidence changes the statutes on how the FTC and the CFPB process these disputes. And so that's a huge thing. It's all over our social media, our website. You can see it. You can go to the United States Patented Trademark Office.com to know that we do have that credential. And so, Dr. B, without going too far, too deep, that's one of the things that's made us very successful. Because when I was going through and suing Equifax, I noticed that the Equifax data breach that happened in 2017 impacted 145 million adults, which is basically about 95% of adults, because don't we have about 350 million, including kids? Most of them, at least half are children. So that's what our dispute process is. The backbone is data breaches. A lot of times back in especially 2017, people would say, what in the world does a data breach have to do with my credit report? But again, through my patented process that's trademarked, we're able to provide that hard evidence that, I hate to say this to y'all out there, but more than likely, you have some form of a data breach. And that data breach more than likely consisted of the sharing to the dark web of your social security number.
So in my case, there were some things that were questionable on my credit report, but some of them were things that may have been bad that I actually may have had a little hiccup with there. But you said, even though using this data breach thing, we can wipe all of that because it's all questionable because of the data breaches. It makes everything questionable. Is that right?
That's right. Because what happens is now that we have hard evidence that your information has been compromised to bad actors, we have the process to go through and essentially audit your entire credit report, whether you knew you did it or whether you don't know you did it. There's certain rules and guidelines that these creditors have to obey. They have to. If they do not obey the laws of the land, they have to remove those items off of your credit report. Plain and simple.
So really quickly, because I'm going to have Jackie chime in on this before we go to her section, but people are asking, well, to get this MyScore credit health, to get
MyScore IQ. MyScore IQ.
What's the investment?
It's $1 to sign up for the MyScoreIQHealth.com. It's a $1. Now it is a 7-day trial, and after that $1 period, it goes to $24.99. But I'm the only company that has been able to. If you'll notice, our logo is on MyScoreIQHealth.com. We're the only company that's been able to have a partnership to where I'm doing everything I can with MyScoreIQ to be able to give consumers out there the ability to check all of their industry scores for $1. Now, after you fill that out, and if you would like us to go over that for a 30-minute free consultation, you can go to our website, fill that out, and we'll go over that. If it's something that isn't going to work for you, then it's okay. I guarantee you, it's going to be worth every minute, and you're going to learn something new about your credit report.
Well, I'd like to say really quickly that if you think about it, I talk a lot about the subconscious mind. And, when we go to sleep at night, there's programs playing. And if the back of your head, you feel like you don't have enough credit. You can't go get things. You're limited. It's blocking you. There's a fence between you and the bank and the deal and this, all of those things. But I realize how much this plays on people's minds, especially if we feel
Yeah.
like we're already feeling like we're in lack, where the enemy is after us, we're this, we're that, and we don't have power. But
Yeah.
this thing with credit can be extremely powerful. I remember the first time I talked to you, Jackie, and you must have mentioned the credit score, your credit score 5 times. Well, see, it's about your credit score. See, your credit score. See, without the credit score, you kept mentioning credit score. And I was just like, well, my credit is not too good. So maybe we should hang up right now. But so can Jackie, can you tap in on just the importance of credit and how that plays into our next piece?
Absolutely. And you're right. Like credit nowadays is being looked at in across the board, like you said, from renting to almost everything. And I kind of noticed. I've heard stories of people trying to get an apartment, especially here in Los Angeles. I'm in Orange County, but in Los Angeles, they are pulling credit. They want a
Yeah.
720 FICO. I'm like, you're not trying to buy a home. You're actually just trying to rent an apartment. And they're making it more difficult to even rent. And they're treating the renters as if they're purchasing the home. And I just don't understand that. And I get it. They want to sift through people that they think would be better renters. But let me just tell you the truth. The truth is today you can qualify. You can, on paper, you can look like the perfect renter or the perfect buyer. We can close on the loan, and tomorrow or the day after you close on your loan, or the day after you get an insurance policy or set whatever up in your family financially, that's going to put you on a different path. And life can happen. You can lose your job. I mean, look what's happening now. A lot of layoffs, a lot of things are moving and shaking in our country right now. So I honestly feel personally they need to change how we look at credit, because a credit score doesn't determine, to me, from what I've seen, whether or not a person would be worthy of getting this extended line of credit, right? Because things can happen to that CEO that's making 300,000, 500,000. Things can happen to that entrepreneur who appears to be, financially stable and making millions, but you don't know if that person is, way in over their head or check to check, just like the person who's making 40,000 a year. So I don't feel that credit should be the only thing in this country that we're judging individuals on the side of this computer, on the side of this application. Unfortunately, that is how it is here, and if you think
Yes.
about other countries, a lot of countries are not set up on the same type of credit system we are. So because of that, we have to just learn how to play this game here. We're in this matrix. We're in, like people call it, a matrix, or we're in this game. We're in this world here in this country where they do look at credit and they are judging you based off of that. Does it mean that you can have a situation with your credit and it can't be fixed tomorrow or within 3 days with Credco or within a couple of months? That's why I said it's almost like a joke, because today I can look like one thing, in a couple of months I can look like something else. Today this looks like this on my credit report, but I can go get it wiped out because of data breaches. And to prove your point, from the medical industry to my sons were in the motion picture industry. And I remember getting emails and letters in the mail saying it was a data breach with Sony and all these big
Hmm.
studios. So from medical to your credit card that you use at the corner store, at your grocery store, has some type of data breach. I mean, we've been exposed. Pretty much all of our information is on the black market, right? So
Unfortunately,
right.
yes.
So what privacy do we really have? And I just strongly feel that it would be amazing if we can even change the way that they calculate the credit scores, because what is that formula? We really don't have A plus B plus this equals this, and it should be set that way, in my opinion, because I see credit scores all day throughout the day. And why do we judge so heavily on it when we can just go simply get it repaired? And it's like it never even happened, which is why people should not feel so bad if they have credit that's not in the high 7s or the 800s. With what I do, I have every single program. Let's just talk about on the mortgage side that you can have 400 credit scores. You're going to have to put more money down, right? But I can still get you into a home if you're buying that home for your personal use as your primary home with scores that's in the 400s, below 580, right? Our government is so set on pushing us to actually get into homes, trying to push us to extending credit, wanting us banks to extend credit. We have a new program now that just came aboard at the end of last year. You could have just had a foreclosure, one day out. You could have just had a bankruptcy, one day out, meaning like discharge from today is discharged, tomorrow I qualify. And you can still get a mortgage. So I like to break all of the falsies that they have out there about home ownership, break all the falsies about credit, how you look at credit. Your value should not be so heavy on credit or so heavy on, oh my gosh, I'll never own, or oh my goodness, I'll always have debt, and then looking at debt a certain way. All debt is not bad debt. You know what I mean? So it's just changing our mindset and how we look at money, or this is a vehicle. Get in that vehicle. As long as you get in, you can learn how to drive it, right? So credit is important, and understand the different assets that we have that can just put us further in our financial path.
And I hate to interrupt you, Jackie, but there are first-time homeowners programs that with FHA that you can get into a home for what, a 580? There's literally first time.
It's even below that. It's not even about the minimum. I can give you programs where you don't even have to put money down. You know what I mean? It's no money down. FHA has a FHA 200 program where it's 100% financing. You can have closing costs. I have a strategy for closing costs. I've put people in homes with very little money out of their pocket. You know what I'm saying? So it's strategies to getting the closing costs paid as well. So
what's the lowest score that they will do without putting any money down?
Well, with that is a 600 for the down payment assistance. So you're talking about down payment assistance program, right?
But still, to have a 600 score, you might as well go and buy a house instead of going and renting an apartment they're trying to make you have a 700 score and your rent's $3,000.
Exactly. And I mean, I know you haven't introduced me to start talking about my section, but there's other strategies. Like, people just sometimes are intimidated with home ownership. And I just feel it's important to know there are also other ways that can help you save up for it or feel more comfortable with paying off your debt, and that's using these cash value policies that we have at our fingertips. We can.
Okay, hold on now. We
Yeah,
about to go there. We're about to go there. We're about to go there.
Yeah, it is. I'm gonna talk about the mortgages too and all of that.
Because I know you both do financing and you get into all that, but I just want to keep this like in a special format here. So to get in touch with Jason, to get the myscoreiqhealth.com.
That's correct. Right?
It's $1.
MyScoreIQ Health. It's $1 for $1. There's nowhere in this world you can get all three of your FICO 8 scores plus your industry lending scores, like what Jackie's going to need to know what your Experian FICO 2 mortgage score is. Jackie, have you ever heard for $1 being able to get all of that?
No, but I can say I never refer people to Credit Karma, just to be honest, because when they
on MyScoreIQ, it's not Credit Karma, it's MyScoreIQ Health, which is a FICO platform.
Right. And I wanted to just extend on that. In mortgages, we do a tri-merge. So we are going to pull all three bureaus, and then we'll choose the middle score of that FICO score to determine your qualifying credit score.
But what I liked when I first got into, when I was introduced to this by you, Jason, I was able to see the different scores or different things I qualified for. So I didn't know that qualifying for a house, a car, or credit card were different. So having that knowledge was huge for me. I said, well, what, I could get a car. I might not be able to get a house, or I could get a house and not get a car. Just having that knowledge was very powerful for me. And I've been using it. I've actually used it since I've met you many times. And I think that right there is it for me to know that there, because most people only think that there's 3 scores.
There's 26.
You see that right there, that knowledge is huge.
Mhm.
So right now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to Jackie, and we're gonna put you on hold in the back room, in the green room, and then we're all gonna come back and wind this thing up and talk about the possibilities and why we're talking about this and the advantages that we have right now that we've never had on the planet before. So you hold on, Jason. We'll be back and have some tea. So Jackie, let's
Yes.
talk about what you do, what you offer, and what I was told about this using insurance policies like the wealthy and the successful to become like a bank. That still just blew my mind. I'd like to hear from you, and you open it up, take the floor.
Yeah,
Ladies and
absolutely.
gentlemen, Jackie Braden.
Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to be on your platform. Um, what I absolutely love is learning, right? And then every time I learn something, I love just telling all my current, past, and future clients the wonderful tools that we have out here. Honestly, from speaking to like even since God power, like we were saying earlier, I've spoken to hundreds of people, and what I see is we're just not having conversations. It's just conversations about money or conversations about, let's just say the blueprint that's already set for us. How do we know that there's a blueprint out there? Is because we do see some people who we look at as successful. And the question should be, well, what did they do? How did they get themselves there? What tools did they use to get themselves there? And as I've been in this financial space, I've been learning more and more and more, possibilities to get us, the average person, the 99%, as what Billy Carson would call them, to where the 1%ers are. And I've always felt we're no different from them. The only thing that they have is knowledge. What is the knowledge that they have that we don't have? What are they doing that we're not doing, right? And honestly, I feel like we have to start having conversations in our home first, conversations at the dinner table, conversations when we're having our family meetings, conversations with our kids, teaching them as we are learning and knowing that it's never too late to learn. Doesn't matter your age when you gain information. It's now that I have that information, how can I apply it? And what I've seen across the board is 1%ers have several things in common. They all have life insurance in place, every last one of them. They all seem to have a business. They own a business, whether they are producing something, inventing something, something in technology, some type of service. They have some type of ownership in business. And I've noticed most of them have real estate. They own some type of real estate. And to me, I always wonder, like, wow, it's very important that we see what they've done. And why are we just not simply applying what they did to our daily lives? But I think the reason is that we feel like it's just so far fetched, it's so far for us to be able to do what they've done. And what I've learned is we can start right where we are. You don't have to have a lot of money to start. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be in certain circles and sitting at certain tables. But what you do need is information. You need to know what you have access to, right? And I think that people need to understand their value. Why do I say that? I say that because the government understands it. They put a value on us. They feel like, okay, the moment you get out and start working, I value the work that you're putting in. I'm going to take some of that value from you. I'm going to take a little bit from you here in taxes. I'm going to take a little bit from you here in interest. Everything in this life and in this country that we work so hard for, we are paying out so much of what we're earning and what we're putting into our own family that we should be passing to our children, but we have to always split it with the government. Give it over here to the banks, right? Give it over there if anything happens, possibly with, insurance companies. And it's like you need to just set yourself up for success and start preparing. And so for me, I've heard people say, well, what if a person really just can't afford a mortgage? And I always respond, well, can you afford rent? Because if you can afford rent, you can afford a mortgage. How? Because you're obviously paying some dollar amount per month, right? And you obviously have some type of value within yourself because you're earning enough to pay exactly that. So you don't have to have that big house that you dream of or that you see on social media or that you feel that you have to have. Sometimes starting right where you are is enough for where you are. And another thing that I would say is, well, the government look at us as you have value. Not only will I take from you in your taxes, and the banks, not only will I give you an interest rate and take a little bit of that from you in this interest rate, even though I'm giving you a line of credit, I'm gonna take a little bit back from you. If anything happens to you or a loved one, the government puts a value on your life. How do we know? Because if a person dies, they're going to find the nearest kin to take care of that burial, right? Even if a person say, okay, what if it's a person that's homeless, have no family members? Well, if that state has to bury that person, they're going to find the estate of that person to then possibly build the nearest kin. And so they, even to cremate someone, cost. It's maybe the minimum cost, but it is a cost. So what is this life insurance? And I always say life, and I emphasize life because we cannot look at life insurance as death insurance, because it's not. We have to change that falsity as well. It has living benefits. And I think this is the conversation we don't have because we just didn't know. Life insurance is all about covering my life right now. I have a value. What is that value? So if you work, right, say you started working at 16 or whatever age it is that you work, we in the insurance industry, we can give a life value to you. We'll take what you earn every year, multiply that by 10, which is 10 years, and that is your life value. So whether you're a person that earned 30,000 a year or a person that earns 100,000 a year, you're either, in our eyes, considered a 300,000-aire or a millionaire on paper, based on how we would give that life value to you to then justify the death benefit, the amount of insurance you can actually apply for. And so I think that that's very important, first, to understand your life value. The moment that you're born into this world, you have a value to you. How do we know? Because this government has set that value. If anything happens to that child that was just born, that mother now has to bury that newborn baby. That's a cost that's placed on that life. So we also put value on, to me, I was talking to Doctah B about this, we'll put insurance on all of the gadgets in our house. We'll put extended warranties on everything. We'll put insurance on our cell phone. We'll put insurance on our laptop, insurance on our vehicle, insurance on everything but ourselves. Make that make sense and think about that. Because if these gadgets have a value to where they want us to put insurance or some type of extended warranty on it, you need to realize how valuable your life is to then cover yourself. It's all about covering yourself. And these living benefits that come with these beautiful products, I just love it, because this is what the 1%ers have done, right? So before I start talking about all the great benefits in cash value, now, yes, I offer term, I offer annuities, and I also offer cash value policies. And there's two types of cash value policies. That's whole life and indexed universal life. Two different ones. I'll talk about those two different ones in a second. But I want to just tell you guys how beautiful having this cash value policy is. The reason why it's so important is the monthly premium that you're paying every single month, right, has a value, and it's being compounded in the interest. So you're now gaining money that's accessible. In my mortgage business, when we do an application, we call that a 1003, we'll ask our clients, hey, do you have for your purchase, if you don't need a down payment assistance, do you have, we'll still ask it, obviously, if you have reserves. It's always good to look like you have some type of money saved, but I've literally closed people who, by the time they're done, they don't really have much saved, but that's okay. The government wants you to buy a home. So we'll ask, well, do you have any cash, obviously, in your bank account? Do you have any stocks, any bonds? We'll ask, do you have any cash value policies? Why do we ask that question? Because the cash value policies, not the term policies, it does not generate cash within it. You can obviously benefit from having a term, but it's something like 90% of people outlive a term policy. So they're paying the monthly policy in that term policy and they outlive it, whether it was 20, 30, 40 years, 10 years, and then now they're no longer insured if that's all they had. And you gained nothing from having that term. Now, it's cool to stack cash value policies with the term policies, and it's cool to even have a term policy if that's all you can afford. Perfectly fine. But I think it's important to have the conversation on what is this cash value policy that lately a lot of us have been hearing in this last, maybe since the pandemic, or more people getting on YouTube talking about what they do. We're starting to hear, how do you become a bank? What is this infinite banking? What does this mean about cash value policies? Well, it's another way of realizing how important it is not only to just have a policy on yourself, but now you're getting rewarded for having something in place that's going to cover your life, because your life is valuable. How much so? We put a value on it. In the insurance industry, we put a value on your life. Okay. So when you understand having these cash value policies and how the money from your monthly payments is compounded and growing in interest, you realize, well, why did I ever not have it? Or why did my parents start my life out with this policy? Because what these people what they did, I'm going to talk about, I'm going to tell you to go to the slide in a minute, but these people used life cash value policies to start their business. You can use it to put down the payment for your home, to buy your car cash, to get treat your own self like a bank, where you don't need to go to the bank to get a credit card because you got enough cash in your own policy that you have access to, just like that, to where you don't need to go to the bank to get that car loan, go to the bank to get that credit card, or even you can save enough to pay for your house cash, depending on where you live, or depending on how big your policy is and how much that money is growing on a year-to-year basis. You can go to the first slide because I want to talk about these people, because it's just amazing. It's just, we have to start learning these stories. I know everybody knows Disney, Walt Disney. You know, people have Disney World down in Florida. You have Disneyland here in California. These people on this page here got denied, turned away from so many different loans. But what they had in place was a cash value policy. Having that cash value policy grew compounded interest year after year, month after month. And because they had that policy in place, they got denied multiple times, but they went to their policy to fund their business. You have Walt Disney did this, J.C. Penney, McDonald's. These companies were started by them having a cash value policy, whether a whole life policy or whether an indexed universal life policy. Both are growing in compounded interest every month, every year. Cash is just stacking. It's growing. You can see it every single month. And so they went to themselves to get themselves the loans that they needed to start their business, to start their dream. And I just find it so phenomenal that they use this strategy. So knowing this, it's like, why don't we talk about this? Why my mom never knew this? Why we don't hear these stories on a day-to-day basis? Why are we not following their blueprint? I don't need to have someone else fund me. I could fund myself. I have so much value. If I make the right decision, invest very minimum. I'm saying a couple of $100 can turn into thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars over time. And it's called the Rockefeller method. And I know people may or may not have heard of that. You can Google that. But the Rockefellers are a trillionaire family today. Why are they a family today that's worth that much? Because they put the value on everybody in their family. Okay. And when I talk to my clients on the insurance side, I always use this example. If my grandmother and my grandfather started their family tree realizing the value in every single kid that they had, and they put a cash value policy on that child from day one, the moment they came out into this world, because as soon as you come out, you're valuable. How do we know? Again, because this country sees you as valuable. They're going to tax you. They're going to put interest on you. They're going to hit you up. They're going to hit you in your pockets, right? So they see that you have some type of value. And even people who may not work, they may get Social Security, they may get some type of income where maybe they can't work. There's still value in that person. And you can have a policy on yourself. And these people use their policy to put the money into their dreams. I just love that. And you have to realize how important that is. You don't have to look to the next person. You don't have to rely on the government. You can rely on yourself. And if your parents or your grandparents, or even starting with you, when you start having kids, put a cash value policy on your child. It'll be like a couple of dollars a month, $10, $20 a month when the baby is first born. Imagine they turn 21. You set aside $20, $30, $40 on a cash value policy on that newborn baby. Now that baby has hundreds of thousands of dollars by the time they graduate, by the time they go to college. Now they're using the cash in that policy to pay for their own college if they decide to go to college, to pay for their own dream if they decide to invent something, produce something, or create a business, right? You're not looking for the next person to fund your dreams and to fund your life. You already set in place the value from day one on you, on yourself, and on your children's children, right? And so imagine if you had a grandmother, a grandfather, they already had $1 million policy on themselves. Let's say grandpa, because they say men die first. We need to change that. We need to stop stressing these men out, people. But let's just say the grandfather passes away first, and he had $1 million policy on himself. But because that grandmother and that grandfather understood the value of starting where they could at the time and whatever money that they had. And again, the earlier you start, the more affordable it is. Even if you're starting at 30 or 40 years of age, you'll be amazed at how it is so affordable to pay that premium. The grandfather passes away. Now he leaves $1 million to his family. The grandmother has this $1 million to, say if they have 4 kids. If they already knew to have the policy on the kids when they were born, not only do the kids have policies that they had together on themselves that's constantly still growing for life, because we calculate the value of your life up until the age of 120. Most people don't see 120, right? And we've heard of people living 110, 115. But the great thing is that we're calculating all the way up to the age of 120. And even if you live past 120, that value, that cash is still in your policy for your use. Okay. Now that grandmother says, I got $1 million policy. My child over here wants to buy a house. She can go take that money and go buy a house for all 4 of her kids, pass whatever to the grandkids when they start having kids. But if the grandmother and the grandfather had this conversation, understood the importance of the value that they have for themselves and on their children, and they also talked to their kids, their 4 kids, and then now they understand the whole method that Walt Disney did, J.C. Penney, and also McDonald's, then they will also do the same thing to that next generation and put another cash value on their grandkids. And then the parents put a policy on the grandkids, because guess what? You could have multiple policies. You don't have to have even one. Up until your life value, you can have policies and you can literally become a millionaire. I see the numbers. It is just amazing that we don't know that this tool exists. And this is something that is the most affordable tool to use to get yourselves in a different financial state. Okay, so if this whole family tree understood how important cash value policies was, and everybody has it on them, and the grandparents started when the kids were born, and now the kids are set when they're adults, they don't have to be stressed about debt, right? Because you can use the cash that's in your policy to pay off debt. You can use the cash to do whatever you want with it. So imagine if your parents did the same thing for you. But more important, even if they didn't, you can do it for yourself now. Wherever you are, whatever your age is, you have value. And we have to just start taking the money that we earn. People go spend hundreds, I think now Jordans and tennis shoes are averaging $200 a month just to go buy a pair of shoes. We pay however much in cable and subscriptions and purses and stuff. All this stuff and items, is it giving you money back? Is it a value to where you're losing the money that you spent, or are you gaining? Is it a liability, or is it an asset? So this policy is an asset because it's growing over time, just like a mortgage would, just like a home would, in the equity, constantly growing over time. I've heard, I think Grant Cardone has said one time that, oh, having a house is more of a liability than it is. And I'm like, not really, because yes, you're paying that monthly payment and that's being dished out. But if you know what to do with the equity that's growing in that home to make that money make more money, then how is it a liability? It is an asset to you. We just need to understand how to use our assets, understand the tools that's right here at our fingertips. Of course, renting doesn't give you any equity, right? And like I said, if you can rent, then you can own, because if you're paying rent, you can pay a mortgage. You can start off with a starter home, start off with a condo, a townhome, start wherever you can. But if you don't want to start with a responsibility of a mortgage, at least start with a cash value policy. These people did, and look where it got them. And still today, these companies are in existence. They are thriving, and they've been able to pass the same knowledge down to their family, right? And so I believe that the conversation just have to be had. We have to talk more about it. What does it mean to even have a cash value policy? Your monthly premium is being invested, right? It's being invested not directly, depending on if it's a variable policy or not, but into the stock market or into, however that carrier decides to invest. And then, by the way, I am not working for one carrier. I'm what's called non-captive. I work for you, the client. I will shop you with the best carrier that would give you the best policy, that was going to give you the best return. And I think that's very important when you're out there looking. Of course, I want you to call me. But if you're out there thinking about getting a cash value policy, because it's an asset, it's growing in the money that you have access to, the thing you need to know is this insurance agent actually an agent for this particular carrier? Because what I've learned is that they all don't give all the information about the value of this cash value policy. It's living benefits. How is that? It's right now, while you're alive, benefiting you. It's benefiting you because I can grab that cash if I need it. It's benefiting you because if anything happens to my health, chronic, critical, or even terminal, I can go have access to that cash and even to the death benefit while I'm alive. And you can have both in the policy. You can have the cash value aspect, and you can also have the death benefit. And I've been talking the whole time, and I really have not been talking about the death benefit, because it's not just about the death benefit. It's about how does it help me now while I'm alive. And what I absolutely love is if I lose my job, if anything happens to my job and my earnings that I'm bringing in every month, I can tap into my insurance policy. How? Because the cash is right there. It will give you supplemental income. And on top of that, it's forcing you, if you look at it this way, it's forcing you to invest not only in yourself, but it's forcing you to invest, period. Because now I'm investing in my future self. So when I'm 55, 65, 75, I have cash that has been growing and pay myself when I'm retiring. So now you don't have to worry about whether or not we're going to have Social Security around in 5, 10 years, maybe not around, the way that people expect, because you already planned for your own future. You plan for your future self right now where you are. And I think that's very, very important also for us to understand. We can't depend on this country. It's always changing. It's many programs that they are doing away with. So what does that look like for you? What does that look like for yourself? Start where you can and where it's affordable. And let's just say, for instance, on average, and I'll just say on average because it depends on your age, it depends on your health. And I have a policy that will go up to $1 million with no medical. And that's a lot of carriers out there won't offer that. They may say, oh, well, if you get 250,000, we have to send the nurse out to you. Well, my carrier, which I absolutely love, this is one of my favorite ones because they have this program. I like it because up to $1 million, it will give you the policy, no questions asked, and you don't even have to do a medical. Unless there's something in your MIB that will kind of draw, of course, it has to be underwritten, just like mortgages are underwritten. These policies are underwritten. But if there's nothing that would stand out in your MIB, your Medical Information Bureau, which, if you didn't know, just like the credit bureaus, they know everything about your credit. On the health side and in the insurance world, we know every single time you went to the doctor. We know every single thing about your health, which is why we should look at ourselves as valuable. You don't want to damage that body because that body has value. You don't want to damage your health. Have that good financial, mental health, knowing where I am, I can start. I'm eating healthy, I'm working out, but financially, I'm working myself in my mental right now because I'm going to set in place for me, for my future self, and even for my kids and my grandchildren, if they should have kids, on how to get further than where you are. So I just wanted to start with the cash value policies because even if a person say, oh, well, I can't afford a mortgage, and I hear that all the time, I just say, stop watching the news. Don't get your news from social media. Foreclosures, people having houses, people losing houses. That's always have been there since day one. It's always a thing. It will always be a thing. So it's no big deal if people are losing houses now. It's no big deal. The only thing that means is that it's possible you could get that house for a little less than the market value. But stop looking at other people and what they're going through and then putting the value on yourself to say, oh, well, not right now, it's not the time, or well, I'll wait until I get to a certain place and then I'll make that decision over here. Start today with making decisions right where you are because you're valuable today. Now, let me just tell you about this cash value policy. So imagine, right, you get to a point where you have hundreds of thousands of dollars in your cash value policy. You can use that, even thousands of dollars, to pay off the debt that you currently have. And I'm talking to the right now people, right now where you are. I'm not talking about many years later as it grows. You can go to the second slide because I want y'all to understand that you're not the only person in this country that's going through financially. You're not the only person that may have a little debt, or like he was saying earlier, your credit may not be where you would like for your credit to be. It's tons of millions of people going through that, right? You have 44 million people that's in this country that has trillions of dollars of debt. You have so many people in credit card debt, so many, and we look at vehicles, unless it's a vintage one that it's actually an asset and growing over the years, vehicles, unfortunately, are depreciating values. So much so We already know the moment you drive off of the car lot, it decreases in the value. But look up these vehicles today. I mean, from 30% to 60% of that vehicle that you just purchased, especially if you did it brand new, the value drops tremendously. And we don't stop. We don't sit and process that and think about why do I keep getting on this hamster wheel? It is not true that you have to have a mortgage payment for the rest of your life. You can get to a point where you can pay it off and you don't have that mortgage payment anymore. It is not true that you're going to always have a car note. You can get to a point where you don't have that car note anymore. You could use this cash value to just straight buy your car. You don't have to have a car loan that has interest, because when you have that cash in your policy, I don't have to go to the bank anymore. I am my bank. I'll go to my own cash now. If I need 10 or 15,000, I want to go buy a vehicle, I'm going into my policy. I'm going to pay myself. I'm going to give a loan to myself as if the bank would give me a loan. But now what I have done is I've eliminated the interest, because why would I put interest on myself? I won't, but the bank will. But what would you do if you got a loan from the bank? You would pay what? That loan back. So I want you to remember that when you're becoming your own bank, because now you got this cash growing in your policy, pay back what you loan to yourself. If you withdraw from your account, from your policy, then it's tax. And then that defeats the entire purpose of the policy and how it's structured and how it's going to work for you at its best. So you never withdraw from your policy. You give yourself a loan. Now you're the bank. I'm going to give myself a loan for the down payment on that house. Or I'm going to give myself a loan to pay for that house in cash. I'm going to give myself a loan for that $5,000 credit card that I would have gotten. I can go pull it from my own policy. I eliminated the taxes that I would have had on that money. I've eliminated and reduced even the taxes. I can even say reduce. And I've eliminated the interest. But I am going to pay myself back. Why? Because in the very beginning, when I do your illustration and I show you how your money is growing over time, and you can see how it's going to grow month after month, year after year, that's based on those projections. So if it's based on those projections of having this consistent premium coming in that's going to be compounded, then I need to pay back whatever I lend to myself. Now, let me tell you the difference between the whole life and the index universal life.
Can we hold one? Can we go back just a little bit?
Sure, you have a question?
Because you going
I'm
real.
gonna tell you everything.
You're dropping a lot of information real fast. I think we should go back to the simple thing. What is the basic simple difference between a regular term life insurance policy, which a lot of people have, and this universal?
I was just about to go into that.
Okay.
The whole life and the index universal versus term. Term is just simply saying, I have a coverage on me right now. Most people outlive that 10, 20 years, and some terms can convert to a cash value policy after you hit that 10th year, after you hit that 20th year. But the 10, 20, 30 years that you were making those premium payments, guess what you lost on? The compounded interest that could have been growing. And then guess what happens after that 10th, 20th, 30th year? You are now older. So once you convert that term now into a cash value policy, you're older. You know, you missed out on all the benefit that you could have had in the previous years when you were younger. Now, the whole life policy, as I was getting ready to say, versus the index universal life, from day one, from month one. And I do want to say every insurance carrier is different, and how your agent sets up and structures your policy is very, very, very important, because they can structure it to where the first 3 years you have not earned any money in your cash at all. And I don't believe in doing that. You can literally structure it to not only where from month one I'm already getting back the premium, and I've done my own test, and with the policies that I've done for my clients, I see an average about 60%, some of them 70%, 50% of the premium that they paid every single month. Let's say if you did $100 per month, that's $1,200 at the end of that year. 60% of that, $600 of that is already going right back into your cash, because it's how your broker slash agent, insurance agent, structure your policy. So if you get your cash value policy and you see the first 3 years it's saying 000, that's because that insurance carrier is hitting you up on fees, and that insurance agent is hitting you up on their commission. And then I don't believe in that. From the very first month that you pay your premium, you should see that you're getting some portion of that premium back. And what does that really say? That really says that if I was really paying $100 every month, which is $1,200 annually, and I get about 60% of that back, I really only paid $400 in premium for this policy that's paying me back. Now, the whole life policy, the compounded interest and the return on that averages around 4%. And I say average because it performs typically higher than the average. So you'll get back more than that 4%. But over the historical, say, of the last 25 years, we'll say an average of 4%. And it's a set payment that you pay every single month on that whole life policy. Now, with the index universal life, it averages 6% in life cash value policy. And there's a couple of payments that you could make within that policy, unlike the whole life policy. You can't, it's one set payment every month. But with the index universal, the IUL, there's a couple. There's a payment that we don't want you to ever go below, because you want your policy to grow in a healthy wave, if that's the best word to say. And if you look at it like paying a mortgage, when you pay a mortgage, you have principal, you have interest, you have taxes, and you have insurance. So those 4 different payments, and possibly homeowners insurance, depending on what type of property you purchased. You have these 4 payments that make up that total monthly payment. And in the IUL, you have something that's similar when it comes to the different payment. You never just want to only pay interest only, because if you only pay the interest only, and I was using that to explain in the policy, then you'll never see the growth that you're looking for. You got to pay into that principal, right? So with the IUL, you have a higher return on investment. And what does that mean? The term versus the cash value policies. It simply means this: the insurance carrier is either going to share in the money that they're making off of you or not. With the term policy, they're not sharing. They're making money regardless. You pay that monthly premium. Insurance carrier is making money off of your premium. They're still investing it. They're still making money. But then when you look at the cash value policies, which is whole life and the IUL, they're sharing in that return that they are earning with you. I know you came back on. You have a question?
We've kind of gone over our
Okay.
so here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to first of all, what you're saying is very deep. If you know, if we're listening carefully, and a lot of the folks who are going to call you, you can break this down, because I know you can break it down.
Break it
But
down.
way down. I'd like to bring Jason back in so we could all come together on how all of this knowledge, all of this that we're talking about, is helpful to folks who might need some help right now, or might have some aspirations about opening a business, you know, getting a loan, buying a house, paying off debt and credit, because all of these things helps our subconscious mind feel, so we can feel better about life. And when you feel better, you can do better. But if you're all confused and burnt out and you're watching the news and listening to the politics, you may think things are getting worse, but actually right now there's a window open. So Jason, you back?
Yeah, like I was saying, you guys saw me in the hospital because I actually had a heart attack from my credit, causing me so much stress. And I was about ready to give up until I took matters into my own hands.
Yes.
That's
Yep.
deep.
That's deep. That's deep.
So
Let's sum this up. Between our credit, looking at our credit a little differently, getting a really good report and knowing where we are and how we can clean some of those things up based on data breaches and misinformation. I even, you even showed me that all of those old addresses and phone numbers that I had, all of those were working against my credit score. I had no idea. I had all kind of. I had my address at my mom and daddy's house back in the day. So how is that on there? Well, you didn't get rid of it. So all of those things can play into, our credit, from what I now know.
Yeah. So if your viewers want to fill out the form on our website, we'd be more than happy to do a 30-minute free consultation and see if we can put a game plan together for you.
Yeah. So you've been listening to what Jackie said, and Jackie, you've been listening to Jason, and I think, because look at both of your names begin with a J. So
I know. I had thought about that earlier.
The J's.
A too, Ja.
So let's sum it up really clear and simple for folks. How the both of you, what you offer, can help folks get out of what they think is a trench.
Mm-hmm.
You see, and it's a mindset. It is a mindset thing about, like you said, what is your life worth? When I found out that my term life insurance policy wasn't mine and I didn't own it, and I was getting a cheap fee each month, I thought, saving money, but I didn't own it. It wasn't mine, and it was about to go away.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that money I put into it was just going to disappear.
It just goes away. Exactly. You did not benefit from having a term at all.
So when I jumped into this other life insurance policy, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Now this is powerful. So I was able to relax. So wait a minute. So it's not going to go away. I actually own it. I'm paying more. I'm putting more money into it, but I'm getting more out of it by being able to use it. That was a very powerful thing.
You have a return on that premium. You're getting money back that you just paid into, which actually technically reduces the amount that you were putting into it to begin with.
Now, both of you are in financing. I know you guys offer business opportunities and all that kind of stuff. Can we just talk a little bit about what you guys offer once we clean up our credit, once we get our minds right, once we've got a life insurance policy, a real one? What kind of things do you guys offer beyond what you spoke on today?
Jackie, would you like to go first?
Yes, thank you. For me, obviously, I've talked about it in my little brief moment, but I offer, obviously, life insurance policies that will benefit you while you are alive. I offer mortgages. That's whether you want to buy it for your personal self to live in, or you want to get an investment property. I have every single loan program on the market right where you are. Like, of course, having a great credit score gives you a lower interest rate should you decide to get a loan for your home or your purchase. But even if you just had a foreclosure, I have a program that can help you still get into the home the very next day after your foreclosure. I do have a program that if your minimum score of 580, if you're not meeting that, you do have to put 10% down. But if you're at minimum FICO at 580, that's 3.5% down to get in. And then on top of that, if you don't have the 3.5%, I can give you the down payment. I can help you keep that money in your pocket, even if you have the money, because I totally believe in keeping you guys liquid as much as possible. Then I have a strategy for your closing costs. There's a strategy to even reduce that money out of your pocket. I also have, for my investors that are out there wanting to buy investment properties, I have 100% financing for purchase, for rehab and construction. You want to go buy that property that you want to construct? I have 100% financing. That means no money down. So again, they are making it easier for us to actually borrow money because this country thrives off of us. They need the consumer, because they need the consumer, we need to just learn the different options that we have out there. And I also offer business funding. Whether you want to buy a car wash, you want to do any type of commercial lending, you need a commercial loan, you want to start a business, I can get you, if you have a TV and film project. I basically sell money. And I say that all the time, but I sell money. If you have a project, you've shot your reel and you need some funding behind that project, I can get funding for you across the board on every level.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jason.
Yeah. So on top of doing uh, credit repair, we also have um, several different lenders that we work with, and maybe we can start working with Jackie, that we can take you to the right lender that would fit your credit score. Like I said, maybe you might have a 700 TransUnion, a 620 Experian, and a 610 Equifax. There's banks that will only look at your TransUnion, your highest score, and we know the banks that use those different uh, bureaus, and so we're able to work with what you got. And so uh, we're versatile. We like I say, we don't just do. Another thing I want to talk about real quick is student loans. I don't know if y'all are listening out there, but the student loan, they have really screwed up the student loan program. When I say they, whether it was Doge or the apparatus that has started to make student loans become due again, they have ruined the score by giving students 90-day lates. They have stopped giving 30, 60, 90, and they start with a 90. That is actually 100% incorrect. We can dispute those and delete those because it has to say 30, 60, 90. It cannot just say 90. So that's another big thing that I wanted to say before we ended tonight, too.
And thank you for saying that, because I see a lot of clients that have student loans, and I
Oh,
also noticed that when I looked at credit scores, I've seen like, how did they jump from nothing to 90,
paid to
11,
90.
60, or not even,
Exactly.
you have to start with 30 at first, so that's good to know. Yes, we're gonna have to
No,
talk after this, and I
they
do
have
want to say
ruined. There's
also,
so many people that are going to be ruined from this.
and I am going to have a real curriculum-based platform where I'm going to be teaching all the things that I've learned in these years that I've been lending. And I think it's really important so we can truly not just talk about loans, but understand in a deeper matter why we need it and how we can use it to our benefit. Thank you. And
Yep.
also, I am Jackie Braden on all social media. Is how you can reach me through any social media platform.
And you can find us at Credco Management, Credco.management, Credco Management LLC. If you type in Credco Management, you'll find us. And Doctah B, I really appreciate you letting me be on your show tonight.
Yes, me too. It's been great.
I have the big one, big question. We'll save that one for the last, right?
Okay.
A lot of people feel that all insurance is a scam. A lot of folks feel that credit is a bad thing. Don't ever owe no money. Don't get into credit. The only thing about this is most of the wealthy people, even the United States, is in debt.
And
They
insured
use other people's
money.
money.
Mhm. They're in debt and they're insured. I want to say something to why people say that with the scam with the insurance. And this is what I learned having this license. You need to know from the application if that carrier underwrites you at the application or at claim. Okay, because we do know insurance companies will try their best not to pay a claim, whether it's your car insurance, whether, okay, did you drop your phone? How did you break this phone? Okay, I'm not going to pay on it. But if you know your carrier underwrites you at your application when you're young, when you're healthy, the day that you apply, that is less likely, especially after the 2-year time frame that they have, that they will deny your claim later. But a lot of insurance companies do not share that information, and that's really what's key. A lot of people 60, 70 years old, something happens, they want to use their benefits, or a loved one pass away, and then they're like, I've been paying on this insurance all this time, and you deny it because you were underwritten when you got that health diagnosis, when that person ended up passing away due to something that wasn't covered because you were underwritten later in life. And a lot of brokers don't make that very important statement to their clients. And that's what I learned. So I'm like, I'm going to pass that information to you guys. That will eliminate a lot of the issues that people feel, oh, I paid all this money. And it's still a benefit if it's cash value, because you still have your cash value there. And if your insurance agent do it correctly and structure it, you have both the cash value and the benefit that you have together. So that gives your policy a higher value. You don't have to have one or the other. That's really key.
Jason,
So that's what I say to that
they
scam.
say
Yeah,
that
could you put
debt-
up my slide?
debt is bad.
Debt is a tool. Debt can be used as a tool. And like I have up here, the best way you can find out if a company is a scam or not is to go and Google them. Simply just Google them. Google their name and make sure they have a Google My Business page. Because sometimes what will happen is they'll just put in their website, and when you type in www, don't do the www, just type in, like for us, Credco Management LLC. There's a difference between a Google My Business page and their website. A lot of companies will just have you go straight to their website, and they'll put on reviews that are fake reviews that they have control over, that they just put on their website. Another thing is transparency. We have a client portal. Everything that we do, we add to your client portal. You can see everything that we send out. We have tracking labels to show you that they were sent out and were received. Everything we put in this dispute package, you see.
I think I'd like to go here. This is what I'm saying. Let me clarify.
Okay.
Growing up, the concept was don't get in debt. It's bad. You're going to be owing forever and ever, and you're going to die in the pool, in a pit of debt. But what I am learning now is that if you are getting a loan or borrowing and you have a plan, and your plan is that you're going to build something that's going to make money. So in other words, you're just not borrowing so you can go to the mall each week and buy new shoes.
Right.
You're borrowing to build something. So what I'm learning now is that when we get the money, what are we going to do with it?
Mm-hmm.
Now that we got cash, what are we going to do with it? That sounds like a song, huh? Yeah. What is the plan? And that comes with financial planning, which a lot of us have learned or are learning at a late date. What is possible? So you mentioned investing. And I knew several people back east that invested in laundromats. I was like, a laundromat? Do you know how many people pay in certain neighborhoods in certain areas to go to a laundromat and put those quarters in? And now they got the, you can pay for it with, you know what I'm saying? Know, your card. People have to, everybody doesn't have a washer and a dryer. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Things like that are investments that grow if we start looking at plans. And that also takes organization and having a mindset that can be open. And that's back to the subconscious. But if you've got mental parasites that are eating you alive and thinking that everything is a scam, everything is messed up, it's not going to work. You're my uncle's friend's brother, and all of them, they got into the laundromat business and it didn't work. Well, that's because they may have, not done this in a way or put it in a neighborhood where people don't, you're out in farmland and you've opened up a big laundromat. You've got to be in places where a lot of folks, so you got to do that research where folks need your service. So what we're doing now at Elevation is, we're offering platforms now where, or programs where folks can come in and talk about different ideas about how to build wealth, how to invest in something. When I started out, I didn't have any product. I was just teaching because I was so glad to be alive after they'd given me this terrible, synopsis of how I was going to die in the year, And I started speaking after that. And I would do lectures and people said, well, Dr. B, what do you have for sale? So well, I'm just teaching. They said, well, no, you talked about all these herbs, but why don't you offer them to us? So I went back to the place next week and I brought one bag of tea, one box of tea that I was making these tea products for myself. And it sold. It sold for 4 times what it cost me. The next week I brought 4 bags of tea. They sold. The next week I brought 20 bags of tea from my lectures and they sold. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I get it now. If I offer people something that can help them teach, first educate people about what's going on and what they might be able to, use or, what they may be missing in their life, and then offer them a service. If we offer services, especially if we're teaching, if we're offering something that people can actually use, that's a good investment. But finding people who can help us with marketing, finding folks can help us, with our credit, where can I go to get a loan? A lot of folks can't get a regular loan. They just can't. They don't even know how. They put the wrong things on the paper. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when you go to the doctor, if you put down there your family history, and this is really funny. You go to the doctor and they give you this paper. It's about 5 sheets of all the diseases that your entire family has. And you give that to the doctor. He don't have to do no work. He's got to, oh yeah, your grandpa had and your grandmother had, so you have it too. They start giving you pills. No, I'd like to walk in here blank. I haven't. Nobody in my family's ever been sick. They're all living forever. Check me out. You see, we sometimes, we're not thinking because we think these authority figures, they've got it all figured out. We need to learn how to fill out a paper. One thing I like about you, Jackie, is you teach people how to fill out the paper. No, maybe you shouldn't put that. It's one thing that you do, Jason, is say, see, you see this right here on your credit report? Let's write the letter and say this. Don't say that on your credit, when you're sending your dispute in. Mm-hmm. Folks who can guide us. And what this platform is about, folks who can give us guidance. And I'm glad that both of you are here doing what you're doing. And I know you both got a lot of information. We could be on here for an hour just with each of you, or 2 hours.
Just 2 hours, yeah.
2 hours. So, you guys go, follow both of them so that you can learn and learn about. Just open your mind. Get out of the mindset of everything is messed up. Everybody's bad. The world is terrible. Then you might as well just jump off the planet. You know what I'm saying? But things are actually getting better. And also this Saturday, from 11 a.m. until maybe 2 or so, I'm going to be talking about spiritual parasites, mental parasites, because a lot of these ideas are experiences in our head about money, about credit. You see, about buying a home, about real estate. They're ideas that were passed down to us by our parents, a lot of times who were born in sin. And sin means to miss the mark. They didn't know. They were scammed by somebody. And they may feel that you're always going to be scammed. So the saboteur in your mind jumps up and says, don't do anything. Nothing is going to work. And that's a mindset. So we're going to be talking about breaking those mind spells. I'm also going to get into explaining the philosophy behind a lot of the products that we offer here at elevationtime.com, because there is a philosophy, behind what we do and why we do it. And we'd like to explain that. I don't think I've done that before and really gotten into why we do it this way. But when you live life and you have a philosophy, a flow, we are always attempting to do your best, put your best foot forward. In fact, never mind the best foot, put your 2 best feet forward. Then we're in a flow. Let's find our flow. Let's try it. Just listen. If I can call up Jason and spend $1, and get a whole lot of information about where I am and where I need to go, that's a game changer. If I can call Jackie, and Jackie's going to be on the phone breaking down some stuff to you that you've never even thought about this. You better get your pen and pencil out for both of these and be ready to write. This is the knowledge. This is a new world we're in now. Things are not the same. There are programs that have never been here before. When you hear how bad it's getting, that's when you get up and realize that bad to Michael Jackson meant good, right? So they say the world is falling. Well, the world has always been falling. let's get on the upstroke. So I'd like to thank you both for being, wonderful guests here and just opening folks' minds just a little bit. And I'd like to have you come back. We're most likely going to do something like a quarterly, platform like this and have you guys, come back and give us some more knowledge. So you've heard just a little bit, ladies and gentlemen, and I'd like you guys real quick, your last few words. Jackie, you first.
Good.
Well, I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for having me on, Doctah B. You're like family. I love your whole family. It's such a blessing to be in a position to help others. I get so much satisfaction when not only am I helping you accomplish your goals or financially set yourselves up that you didn't know you could do, I get so much pleasure out of seeing people happy and informed. I know that a lot of lenders do not take the time to slow down to think. They just look at you as an application, as commission, but that's not my heart. That's not my intent. I absolutely am called to do this. I love what I do, and I'm here to educate and to continue to help people elevate and just change their financial, mental health. Just look at it in a different light and don't compare yourself to the next person. And know that you are valuable. You can set your own tone and track this beautiful life that we have. And it doesn't matter where you are, you can always change where you are, getting a home, getting a policy, just investing in yourself and knowing that you are valuable. You are valuable. Value starts within. And I just love pouring into people that come from your platform, Billy's platform, or they tend to be more open to hear my rhetoric. But I just love people. So I just am so grateful that I'm in a place working with people who help people. And that's just my true heart. So I just thank you for the platform and the opportunity. And you guys follow me at I am Jackie Braden. You can call me at 8555 Voltage. Go to voltagemortgages.com or even email me. Yeah, there you go. He flashes again. You can email me because I'm here to help. I'm here to help you right where you are.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yes.
Jason.
Dr. B, thank you once again for having me on your podcast. And one thing I want to say is, just like with Jackie, how many people out there have respectable people talking about people like Jackie's company or my company, like Dr. B is having us on their podcasts, Billy is having us on their podcasts, Guild Mortgage, Academy Mortgage. Nobody, credit repair companies, you don't see that typically. And so we must be doing something right if legitimate people are saying great things about us. And we look forward to having you visit us at credcomanagement.com. And I'll leave it right there.
Well, thank you both for this. And I'd like folks to know that this is something that we're offering on this, this new platform. And we're not being paid. This is not like a commercial. You know what I'm saying? We're just saying these are offers that whether you feel it or not, that's up to you. Go with your own mindset. Choose what you feel, but just know that there are things and options out there that you may not know about. But if we live life based on the past mindset, then we can't live in the present, because right now what's happening has never happened before. We've never been here before. Everything is brand new. So for those who are open, be open-minded, open-hearted, and realize that, you've got to choose for yourself. Be yourself. Be your best self. Choose your best self now. And just know that there are options out there that you don't know about. And you may have a mindset that could possibly be changed in 1 minute. And you could go from broke to poor. You can go from sad to happy. You can go from being alone to truly in love once you find yourself in the moment. I'm inviting you all to come on Saturday from 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be doing another free webinar. So go to elevationtime.com, elevationtime.com, and check out what we're doing over there. And travel light. Be love. Put your best foot forward. If you got nothing good to say, then maybe just don't say anything. All right? You guys travel light. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're riding with the music, the groove, the feeling of love and harmony. Once again, this is the music that will be coming out soon from the Allow album. This is called The Water Dance. We'll see you again soon.